So I'm going to record this. I always need to remember to do that. And I'll go ahead and present so you can see the screen up here. I am putting all of the awkward topics into one with the three P's, your poo, periods, and lady parts. Um, there were a lot of different titles that I was going through as I was thinking this. This is what I landed on because it's less awkward. But w what I want you to take away from this is some of these symptoms that you're seeing really give you a lot of insight into what's happening. So, over the last few weeks, year, I've been talking about these functional medicine labs, and yet, absolutely, testing is going to be the most specific way to know, like, oh, yeah, I have this hormone is low, or I have this gut issue. But we can tell a lot simply by looking at these symptoms, and we can look at them not necessarily like a single day or even like 1 month, but if it's ongoing, for the most part, it's going to give you a lot of insight in what's happening internally. And you all, as being like my clients that have your protocol and you have that in place, you're already starting to make these shifts, but sometimes we get stuck. And so giving you like a path forward, because I want you to know that it's not necessarily just food, right? There might be something else we want to look at and we want to optimize, and that looks a little different for everyone, but this is a really good place to start. And with that, we'll go ahead and dive in and I'll tell you exactly what I mean here. So stepping back, I know that when I talk to people in the very beginning, I talk a lot about weight loss. I'm like, oh, yeah, eat these foods and these are better for your digestion and they're going to help you lose weight. And I think very superficially, that's what a lot of people think that they want. And then when we start to dive in, we're like, well, I also don't sleep really well at night. And I also feel really lethargic and fatigued in the afternoon. And like then we can just keep going. Like we have all these feelings like that it's not just weight related. Weight is kind of the last thing that happens. We say, and just about everyone says this to me, the reason I want to make this shift is I want to feel better in my clothes. And both the number on the scale, the weight loss in general, fat loss, and then how your clothes fit, it's more superficial. What we want to feel instead, we want to feel overall healthy. We want to feel more confident. We want to feel like have that energy, that vitality. It's hard to describe it in just a couple of words, but that whole body health is really what we want. And so, yeah, I talk a lot about weight loss, but what I really want for you is this like full transformation where all of these symptoms are resolved. And it's hard to say that in a very short time, which is why every time when we do a different group coaching call, it's on a specific subtopic that will still get you to weight loss, but it's overall body health. So, focusing in today, your body speaks to you, it communicates with you lots of different methods and ways that we are hearing our body. And sometimes we don't truly pay attention. But when we do pay attention, these are three areas that we can get a lot of insight into what's going on, right? The three P's. So poo, periods, and lady parts. And I even put little emojis next to them because I'm not giving you graphics. We're not doing it that awkward. We'll just go with emojis. But we can get a lot of insight into how our body is reacting to the things we're doing. And this, like on a cycle, poo is something that we would see more like changes in our poop. We're going to see that I guess we're going to see that quickly compared to your period, which comes every month, and might take months or even like half a year to a year to optimize. And when we talk about lady parts, if that's just vaginal health or if we're talking like uterine health, internal organs, again, when we're talking about hormones, hormones do take a little bit longer. So gut health is usually where I start if we were to say like an order of importance, because we're going to see results quicker, we're going to feel better quicker. And when we work on gut health, we're also going to impact hormone health and so on. So that's why it's in that particular order as well. So why does this matter? Obviously, you're here because you're trying to learn more, you're trying to feel better, you're trying to lose the weight and resolve all the symptoms. But putting it into perspective, when you have these issues, they're not random, like there's something deeper going on. And we get this daily feedback on a every single day basis from our body telling us if something's off or if something could use more support to optimize something in a particular place more specifically. So we're going to go through it. You'll see for each topic, there's like a warning signs and like what's going wrong and then what to do about it. Okay, so that's something you can kind of see that pattern happening. So we'll start with poo. We'll start with warning signs. Okay, and I'm just going to dive in. So when we're talking about poop, here are the symptoms or the warning signs that we're seeing. So if you don't go to the bathroom daily, if you don't have a single bowel movement in a day, that's something that kind of alerts me. It's like, hey, that is probably the number one thing that says, we need to optimize some things. Then, when we go in a little bit more in depth, finding out that you only poop after coffee, or if you're drinking tea, that could kind of fall in. But caffeine in general, if that's what's causing your bowel movement, that is a sign that your body's kind of relying on that external stimulant to poop. And that's an issue. When you smell your poop, I'm laughing because, like, my kids are still of the age that they need help in the bathroom. And if I go in there and I'm like, ooh, like that stinks. Like I don't want to go in there and wipe. Um, but thinking about it, like poop shouldn't necessarily smell. It's not supposed to smell good because it is a sign. Like you're not supposed to eat it or touch it, right? Evolution exists for a reason. But if it's very strong smelling and like you have to, warn someone going in, no, don't go in there after me, that's a sign that things can be optimized. When you have a bowel movement, if it's very hard or dry, rabbit pellets, incomplete, like you can't finish your bowel movement, that's an issue. When we think more upstream, we think about bloating. If you have bloating where your belly's so hard, not necessarily the fat on top, but like underneath the like wall of your belly, it's not your abs, it's your intestines, like that bloating. And if it's there on a more than once a week or less basis, that's an issue. Or then when we think about bowel movements like sticking, being very sticky, tarry, that's an issue as well. So as you're reading these warning signs, you might jot them down. You might think to yourself, oh yeah, I have that. But keep in mind, I'm going to give you a checklist at the end that has all of this here, so you don't necessarily have to memorize it. I'll include that checklist for you. But these are the poo warning signs. So, what's going wrong when we're thinking about this? It's probably a combination of these, but the most likely culprits come from under eating. So if you're eating, someone told me they were eating like 800 calories. If you're eating 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 calories, somewhere in that category, especially if you're taller. I'm 5'0" for reference, but if you're taller, you should definitely be above that. If you're under eating, your body is not going to eliminate waste. It's going to hold on to every single calorie and type of food that you can get because it needs it to survive. Okay, so that's the first thing. And usually when I talk to people, they are under eating. This is a very common thing that I notice early on. And they're usually not drinking enough water. So some people, when they start with me, they're like, yeah, I drink like a cup of water a day, like 8 ounces, 16 ounces. Okay. But ideally, if we were to get to an ideal, we're drinking 100 ounces or more of water a day. For me, this is my cup, and I try and keep it next to me at all times. This is my quart jar. I try and drink 3 quarts a day or more. So I'm drinking at least 100 ounces in that. Not everyone starts there. Not everyone is going to necessarily get there quickly, but you need to drink water. At least half your body weight in water is a good start, but ramping it up from there. Because if you're, not drinking enough water, it's going to lead to constipation. Then we look at food itself. And if you're not getting enough fiber, and like a rough estimate is about 20 to 25, 30 grams of fiber a day. It's coming from your veggies, it's coming from legumes, it's coming from real food, not just bread that says, oh, enriched with fiber on the label. If it has a label and it tells you it's enriched with fiber, that's not necessarily the best quality source of it, right? We want fiber from real food. This is where I start with the core four, right? We are working on those Even at the very beginning, we're working on the core four. But there could be something going on more in depth. It could have to do with bacteria. It could have to do with like your liver is not functioning optimally. You're not detoxifying toxins. Um, so if you're not going to the bathroom every day, your toxins are just getting recirculated. They're just like in there. And so if your liver is not functioning optimally, you're not producing enough bile from your gallbladder into your intestines, into digestion, then that's going to slow things down as well. And lastly, which we haven't talked about in the last couple of weeks as much, but is something I always bring back is stress is going to slow down digestion as well. It's very timely because it is around the holidays as we're doing this, and everyone's stressed. The magic of Christmas is actually stress. Um, so it's hard to avoid it, and yet we know we need to reduce our stress. So today's topic is not on how to reduce stress so much, but being aware of where stress is coming from because that's going to impact poo. Um, okay, what to do instead? Miranda, I see your chat and I'm going to come back to that one at the end, okay? So I'm not ignoring you, but I'm going to talk more specifically to you. All right, so what do we do instead? Number one, we follow the core four. And that's the very place that I start every single person, and that is diet and exercise and water and sleep. Those are going to be the most important things. That's your foundation. When we look at food, I need you to eat enough food, especially protein. Carbs are important. Veggies are important as well. If you were to put an order of events, the first thing you should be doing in the morning after like going to the bathroom and, brushing your teeth or whatever, the first thing you do should be to drink water. Start your day with water, and preferably it would be water, smoothie, and then coffee or tea. So you're having a lot of hydration before you dehydrate your system with a diuretic like coffee. And it slows that uptake and it slows the stress. So this is the core four. When we look more in depth, we need to support gut bacteria. Perhaps that's a daily probiotic. Perhaps that's eliminating like the bad bacteria. That's a little more custom, but looking at bacteria is important. Reducing stress is important. Not so much talking about that today, but know that it is important. And this might be something that is new to you, but I want you to actually kind of train your habits to go to the bathroom every day. And so this was something that was really important. My daughter, she had molluscum, which is it's a virus that causes bumps on your arms. She had it for 3 years. Come to find out, like as I was doing this certification, as I was learning more, she had like massive yeast overgrowth and zero beneficial bacteria. And even though she was having bowel movements usually every day, sometimes every other day, we actually, part of her protocol was every morning we're going to sit and try and go to the bathroom, not in the evening. We're going to aim for morning bowel movements because then you're getting rid of toxins as early as possible and opening up your system to improve digestion. And these should be easy bowel movements. They shouldn't be like things you're straining at. I don't want you getting hemorrhoids as you're working on going to the bathroom. But every morning, say you leave for work at whatever time, 30 minutes before that, go in the bathroom and try to go to the bathroom. Okay. Even if you don't normally have a set bathroom time, that would be really helpful. So, having a set bathroom time, trying to make sure you're going in the morning. And this might be shifting your metabolism. So, it might be kind of like training yourself to do something different. But that can be really helpful because you're continuing to eliminate toxins. All right, that wraps up the section on poo. We're going to dive into the next one, but it'll follow the same pattern. So you'll see that familiarity. All right, let's talk about periods. So when we talk about our period, what I often hear from pre-menopausal women, so people that are women that are still having their cycle, hopefully they're regular, sometimes they're not. And that's a separate topic that I'm not necessarily diving into here. But PCOS, irregular periods, different hormones, like that, of course, is a warning sign as well. This would be more geared toward the person who is having a period, but there's just issues with it. Okay. So when we are having a period, if you're seeing any sort of brown blood, especially at the beginning or end, um, a lot of people say that that's normal. That's actually a warning sign too. So when you have your period, it should be like a bright red, not clotty. It should be more in that bright red category rather than dark red, rather than brown. If you're having painful cramps or like during your period or painful ovulation, like the other half of your cycle, those are both warning signs as well. So that indicates that usually that there's a hormone imbalance between estrogen and progesterone. When you have extreme cravings, and I'm not talking about like you want a little bit of chocolate or like you want some ice cream because you have a little bit of sugar cravings and like that sounds nice. I'm talking about like you cannot think of anything else. You need sugar, you need salt, you need to have this, and you cannot go through your day without having it. Like, so extreme cravings. That's a warning sign. Having a little bit of cravings, like, I know that's a spectrum. It's harder to say like what's extreme versus what's regular. Um, but knowing that having big cravings is also a warning sign, which can lead to binge eating. Part of that has to do with our food and not fueling right. But if you are binge eating around your cycle and everything else is in place, that tells me there's something going on hormonally that's imbalanced. Same thing with energy crashes. So if that week before your period or like while you're on your period, just like energy is low, it could mean we need to switch out like how we're working with your carbs or your workouts. It could mean that there's something else going on hormonally, right? So usually what a lot of, to summarize what is going on, it has to do with hormone imbalances. Okay. So what is going on could be hormones. It could be some other things, right? Like our body is a system. So we, as a system, have many things going on in place. Blood sugar is one, hormones are one, inflammation, minerals or vitamin deficiencies, and then throw in stress, right? Like all the things. Now, when you have your protocol, like those of you that are listening on this call, you know that we are trying to optimize blood sugar. We are trying to reduce inflammation through eating the right foods, right? We're trying to remineralize our body, add in the vitamins. Like these are things we are continuing to work on. However, what you might be aware of, or I guess become aware of is the right way to say it, is that when we have a stable blood sugar, we don't have those headaches, we don't have those energy crashes. When our liver is functioning properly, estrogen, any excess estrogen we have gets detoxed. When we're eating the right foods, and I'm not saying like never eat dairy, but we know that dairy is going to inflame us if we eat it every day, right? So working on foods that are more lower inflammation, getting the right minerals, potentially for some people, that's adding like a salt packet or sea salt onto your foods. For some people, that is taking a supplement, especially zinc. I see a lot of low zinc or selenium. Um, those are ones that I see pretty frequently. So potentially supplementing with the right things, reducing stress, continuing to come back to that. And then when we just kind of like white knuckle through our cravings and we're like, I'm just not gonna have anything. I'm hungry. I really want chocolate. I'm not gonna have any chocolate. And then you binge and have all the chocolate. Okay. One bite of dark chocolate, that doesn't ruin it. But one bite of dark chocolate coming from a day of not eating enough or, months, weeks of not eating enough, you're going to go binge after that. So having that balance in your life is going to help you. So what do we do instead? All month long, we should be eating balanced meals. That really is following your protocol, continuing to eat whole foods, continuing to fuel your body. Some people, I do recommend during the luteal phase that we increase carbs. So this is getting into that topic of carb cycling. We could look at seed cycling as well, and those are more advanced topics, but those are shifts once we get the core four like really dialed in. Sometimes doing a functional medicine detox, supporting our liver, supporting our gut health can be really helpful. So reducing sugar spikes, I don't mean to cut out carbs, right? We're not cutting out an entire food group, but when we have carbs, even if we have a cookie, right? We have Christmas cookies we're doing on Sunday coming up with our family. I'm going to have a cookie, but I'm also going to make sure I pair it with protein. I'm going to drink water. I'm not eating just carbs by themselves. It's eating carbs as part of a meal. Always getting enough sleep, giving yourself even like a day between workouts, like that can be helpful, or no more than 2 to 3 days of workouts. Doing 5 days of workouts a week might not give you enough recovery if you're doing them 5 days back to back. You might want to do every other or 2 days of workouts, one day off, something like that. So prioritizing recovery and then being aware of your patterns. And so like you see my aura ring, that's a way to track patterns. Having a wearable, whether it's a watch, a ring, whatever, writing it down on a piece of paper is another way to do it. So watching your patterns from month to month is being very proactive instead of being reactive, like, I don't know what's going on, and ignoring them, being very aware of those patterns. And then our third and final major category is lady parts. So when I'm talking about lady parts, being very specific, I'm talking about, yes, vaginal health, but also uterine health, ovarian health, all of the lady parts. Could even talk about like breast tenderness here. There's quite a bit of parts that we have. But I'm trying to like not give every possible symptom, just giving the ones that I hear most often. And these are them. Okay. So typically what I hear is that it's a strong odor, or you get a lot of yeast infections, like you have gone month after month, or maybe 2 or 3 yeast infections a year. Like what's going on there? You might have discomfort or irritation, whether it's itchy, it's painful, like just discomfort. Could be cramping, higher up. Changes in discharge, whether that goes from like being like white or kind of cheesy or yellow, like all of the different colors that it could be. Consistency is a big one. These things do change during your cycle, but kind of pairing them with the like frequency, like how often is it changing frequency? How often is it smelly? Like those things can be definitely a sign of something's up. And especially if you're using products. So anyone that's using like a soap to get rid of, like to balance your vaginal pH, we don't need soap necessarily for that. Like you don't need products there. Especially if you have like, I forget the term, if it's like a vaginal perfume, like so you're not having smelly anything. If you need products there, that's definitely a warning sign in itself. Now, other warning signs, and this is not the comprehensive list, but other warning signs could be cramps, especially around ovulation, especially around your period, tender breasts. Libido is one, if you have no libido. Those are other things that we could get into, but trying to keep the list fairly short. Um, I didn't give every possible sign. So what's going on? Usually, this is some sort of microbiome imbalance. So when we're talking about it, you either have bacterial overgrowth, you have yeast overgrowth. That could be in your gut, but if it's in your vagina and you're getting yeast infections, like it's everywhere. You might even see it on your tongue. They call it thrush, right? You could have yeast everywhere in your body. That's usually what's going on. Now, it could also be blood sugar or hormones, like possibly. Candida, that's the yeast right there. But generally, there's some sort of imbalance going on at the microbial level, the micro level. It could come from more upstream, just like not giving yourself the right vitamins. You're not getting enough vitamin D for immunity or vitamin C, zinc. Your liver might be sluggish. So that could have caused it. It could have come from antibiotics. It could have come from other things in the past. But this is what's going on right now. And that's the thing to solve. That is usually the root cause. And so what I typically see is, oh, I have a yeast infection. I'm going to go get an antifungal, or I'm going to go get the pills that make you pee orange, and the name is coming out is escaping me right now. But there's like a pain pill. It's like, oh, I have a yeast infection. It's really painful. It really burns. I'm going to take this pill and it's going to go away. But that doesn't say like why it's burning in the first place. So what's going on? So that would be the root cause. Um, yeah, I think that covers it. That's a good overview there. So what do we do instead? Number one is to support gut health. That often comes from food, getting enough fiber, getting enough water, going back to the core four every time. We do that by eating real food, 3 meals a day instead of lots of snacks, instead of lots of processed, like white flours, sugars, and so on. We do need to be very conscious about reducing processed sugar. Now, fruit, yeah, it has sugar. Do we want to eat all fruit all day, every day? No. It still has, more sugar than we need, but we definitely want to reduce the processed sugars and alcohol as well, being two separate categories, but alcohol often has sugar in it as well. Alcohol is also made with yeast, so you're reintroducing more yeast into your body, and that's going to throw it off. It's also going to prevent your body from detoxifying and going through all of the things that we would normally do to get rid of toxins. It kind of like gums it up, if you will. Okay. This is kind of the baseline. But if we wanted to go a step further, we know that there's more going on. We need to address yeast and bacterial overgrowth. And I'll show you in a couple slides, like how do we do that? Uh, I would say a conventional doctor, what they will do is they'll either give you an antifungal or an antibacterial. I think that works in the short term, but it's not working in the long term because you're not providing your body with, I would say, more than just like masking. Like that's just a band-aid. Instead, giving it like a full getting rid of the bad, but replacing it with the good, doing that very intentionally. That's what I'll share more about. And also doing a detox because it's going to make your body function better. And ultimately, we need to stop like masking the symptoms and actually heal them, which you've heard me say that for weeks and weeks now, but that's absolutely still true. All right. So that's an overview without diving so much into, well, exactly here's what's going on, but here's just like generally what I'm hearing. Lots of, I would say more overview of symptoms and then a very cursory, like, here's what do we do about it. So, what do you do with this information, right? Where do we go from here? Start with your foundation, and that's always going to be where we start. Every single person that starts with me, I don't know what you've been trying before it. So we always start with the core four, right? And then we start getting answers. We add in data, we look at what has worked and what hasn't worked. So we're always starting with the core four. From there, we want to make sure that we're optimizing for water. We're eating the protein and the veggies and the carbs. There's a reason our body needs all of these things is because we want to optimize our health. So getting those things is absolutely, absolutely foundational. And then what I often find is like usually the first and the second week, we are very aligned, like we're following it. It feels fun and exciting. But usually people around week 3 and week 4 start reverting to their old habits of what worked in the past or even just what feels comfortable because life gets busy. And I know I am very much going to say, like, I do that too. I know everyone's human. However, what you had been doing wasn't getting you the results. So remembering to use our new habits and our new routines, even when things get busy. So knowing, of course, that these aren't random, this is actually the foundation. It's the groundwork for hormones, digestion, nervous system regulation. We know this, right? So the foundation is the most important thing, but we can go deeper. So when you see, for example, even something that I said for a symptom, you're like, oh, I never told Megan about this. Share this with me because I can help you. So I got a couple messages today. Hey, my period looked different last month than it did before. What do we do? And so we can talk through that and at least be starting to monitor, starting to open up that conversation. Um, Things shift before they get to exactly where you want them to be. So before you quit, before you're like, no, it's not working. No, there's always something to optimize. So know that you're not in this alone. That is literally what I'm here for. Like, how can I help you? But if you are silent about it, you don't tell me about it, I can't help you. So tell me. You might choose to add in more targeted supplements. I'm not just saying like take this random thing because you saw it on TikTok and it's going to help you magically erase everything and feel better. But there are certain supplements that people need for certain symptoms. For example, you've heard me say this many times now, if you've heard anything from me, Having a daily multivitamin is really key. This is the one I use. It's this one in the picture, the daily nutritional support, because it is a multivitamin and a protein, and I put it in my smoothies. Okay. That's it has all the foundations. But considering it's winter, well, winter in like less than a week, I guess, um, you might want to add in, for example, the immune support. That's vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, adding those into your system because you want to optimize for immunity right now. So we're not just throwing random supplements. We're not trying to literally pee away good money. We are trying to be very strategic with what we are taking to support our body. So supplements can help if you aren't getting it from food. Chances are you're not getting selenium from food or enough zinc, and supplements can help. Okay. If you want to go one more step deeper, I do think this is a really great way to start off the new year. I'll be doing this too. I'll be doing a 21-day functional medicine detox. It's basically the 7-day one 3 times. And what it does is it floods your body with nutrients. So you get all these nutrients. And then these are the things that make your liver work better, your kidneys work better, and it pulls out the toxins. So add nutrients, remove toxins, and these, in bigger words, are what you're optimizing. So we're detoxifying our liver, we're supporting lymphatic drainage pathways, we're balancing our hormones and like reducing excess estrogen and then reducing inflammation. Uh, Big words, but ultimately we are adding nutrients and supporting removing toxins. And if none of that works, we can go deeper. There's always a solution. There's always something to optimize, right? So some people want more specific answers. These are two of my favorite tests because it gives you the answers right away. So we look at gut health, we look at mineral deficiencies, heavy metals in there. There are other tests. We could look at hormones as well. But if we stop guessing and we start actually testing for the things that we're looking for, that can be helpful. Should everyone start here? No. That's why we start with the core four, because everyone needs to eat the right foods and get movement, whatever that looks like for them, and get sleep and get water. But you want to see results quicker, you want to optimize quicker. That's what this is for. So summarizing this and putting it in holiday colors, because why not? We're always going to start with the foundations. That's the core four. You want to take one step next. That would be to open your detox pathways, whether that's through the detox itself or through specific targeted supplements to make your body work better. You want to go one step deeper. That would be the personalized lab testing. Okay. Kind of walking you through and breaking it down, making it a lot more simple than words. Just it can be very simple. All right. Wrapping this up, a little longer than a typical coaching call, but if you have questions, number one, I'll send all these links out. I'll be sending them out in a few. If you need personalized suggestions, hey, I have this going on, communicate with me, right? Ask me what's going on. Uh, and action tasks for today. What I'll leave you with is that symptom quiz. I mentioned it at the beginning. So I will actually open this up. I'll stop the recording. I'll give you the link right now in the chat so you can go through. If you have more than 3 things checked, that's where you want to take action. If you had just like one or two, it's like, hey, you could probably get there with food, the core four, looking at those and working on those, you could probably get there. But if you have more than 3 things checked, you definitely want to take action because there's a lot more room for improvement. So to give you a score there. All right, with that, I'm going to stop recording and I will have all these links for you right below.